right, so let's keep on moving. Let's keep on moving. Let's look at the next part. Let's okay, so now that we went over some of those definitions, let's look at a few more definitions so that way we can all be all semantically and vernacularly or in all of these lurlies and enhanced, so we can get it together. We can be on the same page and we can learn the same way. All right, so we are about to get it. And one of the things we're going to talk about first is people. All right, so people. Remember that it spoke about people, person, and the republic in some of those definitions that we were going over about people, the people. Some of these people were actually done in capital letters like this. When you see things in capital letters, capitalized in general, so backing up a little bit, we were taught how to capitalize, we were taught what to capitalize and how to capitalize things inside of a sentence. And people isn't capitalized like that in a sentence unless it's like a name or something important. So the same thing applies to situations like this, especially in situations like this, and particularly in legal documents. Capitalization and punctuation matters tremendously. All right, don't let them fool you with different things and let them say that it's the same. No, it's not. All right. So let's go back to that. All right. So people. All right. People or citizen, which one are you? The preamble does not specifically define the word people. Nevertheless, the definition becomes apparent in the context of the other words in prior history. Now, this is from 1215.org, all right? So, before the United States existed, there was no legal government. A group of representatives, in a republic, you can enact a group of representatives. And in this case, a group of representatives self appointed themselves to show people acting in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies. So, what did these representatives do? They were acting, all right, because nobody appointed them and they knew that everybody wanted to be free. So they didn't just appoint themselves as rulers, because that would be like a monarchy, which is what they just escaped from. So once again, a group of representatives acting in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies declared the independence of the colonies from the British crown and from the state of Great Britain. Mm-hmm. All right, so we don't really need to understand all the rest of these things right now. You guys can pause this, read this over if you guys would like to. Make any comments if I messed something. But basically, what you need to understand is that the good people are the free people that they start to refer to when they start to describe what a republic is and what they want people to be, and when they start to describe who we are inside of the Declaration of Independence. All right, so does that make sense so far? Hopefully it does. Hopefully you guys all following me. All right, so let's go over some definitions. All right, definitions. We want some definitions. All right, so what we want to look up first is sovereign. What does it mean to be sovereign? All right, so sovereign is a monarch, a king, queen, or other supreme ruler, a person who has supreme power or authority. All right, they didn't want a monarch, a king, queen, or other supreme ruler. That's why those representatives were only acting in the good faith of the people. All right, they wanted everyone to have supreme power and authority of their own lives. All right, so this is what being sovereign was about, and this is why the whole Bill of Rights, the whole Declaration of Independence, this is what they meant. They wanted everybody to be sovereign people, not sovereign citizens even. Sovereign people, the right to participate in and to be and to participate and to not participate if they didn't want to. To control their own money, to control their own interests, to travel freely, you know. So so that's the first part. So that's the first definition we want to go over. Now the another definition we want to go over is let me close that. Sometimes things happen that make people go slow, but it doesn't matter because we gonna go anyways. So constitute, all right. So constitute means to compose or form, to appoint to an office or function, to make or create, to establish laws, an institution, etc., like maybe an organization, to give legal form, to create, or to be tantamount to. All right, all of these words, you guys can pause. Once again, this is a video. You guys can pause these things. If I'm going too fast, pause it, rewind, whatever you need to do to make sure that this goes faster. Put it on fast, put me on like whatever you want to do to get this on your pace, so that way you can understand, because this is a video. All right, so that's what constitute means, and I want you guys to pay attention to these definitions because they're important to what we're going to be going over in just a moment. All right, so that was constitute. Next one is, so what is a charter? And a charter is a document issued by a sovereign or state. A sovereign. So a monarch, we're not monarchs, right? But we are the rulers of our own lives. But because we would have to, especially when it comes to charters, it would have to be like a group decision where we elect representatives, like how the Constitution is a republic constitution, or constitutional republic. You know, this is how charters work as well, okay? So if you understand how they form the constitutional republic, you should be able to understand how they will have to form charters and acts and rules and organizations in the future by asking everybody, okay? So make sure to remember that part as well, because that's important for the future. So once again, a charter is a document issued by a sovereign or state outlining the conditions under which a corporation, colony, city, or other corporate body is organized, and defining its rights and privileges. All right, so a charter defines the rights and privileges of an organization. All right. What? Often an initial capital letter. So a first document? A document defining the formal organization of a corporate body. Constitution. Oh, but we just learned what constitute means, so that's important. So next definition is, what is a civic leader? So what is a civic leader? Skipping ahead. So noun, a civic leader is a leader in municipal affairs. Pay attention to that word, municipal. And I want you guys to notice that the thread runs thick in this one. All right, the thread runs thick. These words are just tying into each other, and they don't just tie into each other for no reason. They chose these words and these acts and these situations for a reason. All right, pay attention. Once again, like, turn off the TV. You know, I know everybody's like, oh my gosh, these things are so long, but you know what? Love and Hip Hop is way longer. You know, Real Housewives, the Kardashians, none of these people are helping you. None of them are helping you. None of them know their history. And at the end of the day, when all of these things are happening, they're sitting there in their pearly white mansions behind their gated with their private security. They don't care about any of you. And you guys are all giving them money through ad revenue and watching them. None of them care. All right, we all need to get it together and start taking care of each other, because none of them care. None of them. Yes, Oprah, I'm talking about you. None of them care. Whatever, I'm not going to be talking about that. You know, none of these people care about you. So I got a little bit distracted. So what is a civic leader? A civic leader is a leader in municipal affairs. A leader, a person who rules or guides or inspires others. All right? Rules or guides or inspires others. So if in a republic, we don't have somebody ruling over us, so technically, what does a civic leader supposed to do? Guide or inspire other people. All right? Remember these things I want you to remember. All right, so moving on to what the next definition is. What is a municipality? So a municipal, we might as well go over this one because this is important to you. A municipal is relating to a city or town or its governing body. So what is a municipality? A municipality is a city or town that has corporate status and local government. Once again, a municipality is a city or town that has corporate status and local government. All right, so Pay attention to these things. Once again, like, I can't emphasize this enough. All right, I can't emphasize it enough. We need to start paying attention to our laws, our history, and what people are actually telling us. All right, like, one person can't tell you everything. You can't, like, the news isn't gonna. The news is not gonna tell you. Fox News ain't gonna tell you, especially the mainstream media. None of them are gonna tell you. You need to look at it yourself. You need to go into the records, especially because these history books are getting messed up. They're starting to call slaves indentured servants nowadays. No, that is not slavery. That is not the same thing. Slavery is involuntary. Slavery is involuntary servitude. Slavery and involuntary servitude is literally the same thing because they do not want to be there. Indentured servitude is somebody that's volunteering their time in exchange for something else, but they have an agreement. You know, they have an agreement, and if they violate that agreement, then they need to repay whatever that whatever something there's some sort of repayment for that violation. But when you're a slave, that's involuntary servitude, and I'm choosing those words on purpose, so I want you to remember those two as well. Slavery and involuntary servitude is the same thing. Mm-hmm. It is. All right. So municipality, a city or town that has corporate status and a local government. All right. So moving on, what is the next definition we want to look at? What is the next definition we want to look at? Incorporated. Let's look at what incorporated means. Incorporated. 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 This is a okay. So incorporated means of a company or other organization formed into a legal corporation to take in or contain something as part of a whole. Include. All right. Combine ingredients, incorporate. So basic definition once again. So let's look at the next one. Let's look at corporation because that's what they were talking about. A corporation is a company or group of people authorized to act as a single entity. Legally, a person. So a corporation can act as a person. This is why we see those trust funds. This is why we see those different corporations making international deals and so on. Because why? A corporation can act as a person. Legally, they can act as a person. That's tax IDs and social securities are literally the same thing. All right? They're just things that label you as a business item, you know, as a commodity. All right, so legally a person and recognized as such in law. So a corporation is legally recognized as a person in law. We went over municipality, we went over corporation, we went over incorporation, we went over what a republic is, a democracy. We went over quite a few different things. What a civic leader. I want you guys to remember all of those because they are all important with what goes on next. All right, we're going to start getting into it. We're going to start getting into it. Some things that are really important for us to talk about. All right. And one of those things that we really need to talk about is the Declaration of Independence. And I want to just cheat and put it right over here because I already highlighted this part. So I want us to go ahead and start about the Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Independence is the same everywhere. So let's go about it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All right. So that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Governments are instituted or created among men, getting their just powers from the consent of the governed. All right, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Who's the governed? We are the governed. All right, we as a people are the governed. All right, that's how the forefathers wanted to be because that's how a republic, a constitutional republic is founded. That's what it's based upon, us being sovereign individual people. People, not even citizens, people. All right, so that whenever any form of government, remember those capital letters, you guys. Remember, govern right over here wasn't capital, but governments are. All right, because we are all the same. No individual can make anything. That's why it's governed. All right, I want you guys to pay attention to these capitalizations. All right, so that whenever any form of government becomes destructive, any form, any sort of form, whatever it may be, small, big, large shape, whatever, government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. Any form of government, any form of government that becomes destructive, the right of the people is to abolish or change it and to institute a new government. So the moment that we feel disrespected or our constitutional rights or this or that or the other or somebody doesn't make us feel, we have the right to change it. And we have the right not to listen to it. This is what the Republic is talking about. That's what our Constitution really is talking about. This is what it's really talking about. It's talking about a checks and balances system for the unjust government. Because we know that when people get power, like what happens with the monarchy, what we just escaped from with the Revolutionary War, all right, they did not want that to happen again. They did not want that to happen again. So they put all of these things in place so that way it wouldn't. All right, so moving forward a little bit. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, which is essentially terrorism and like oppression, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government. All right, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to prove new guards for their future security. Find somebody else to replace them. And in the meantime, do you. That's what our rights are about. That's what they're talking about. That's what they're really there for. That's what they're there for. And that's what we really need to start remembering is that like I got the power for real. And stop paying attention to the TV and stop like giving into willful ignorance and just allowing them to control everything and stop just being like, I can't do anything or I don't understand or it's just too much, Because yeah, it is too much, especially for the people that are getting oppressed. All right, and that is not what it's supposed to be like. Once again, when a long train of abuses and when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is evinces a design. They don't have to do it immediately, but if they create a framework that creates that and puts the people under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Hello, somebody. Come on, let's get it on. Let us get it on. Let's get it on. So, we went over all those different definitions, all right? Now, what I'm going to get into is the meat and potatoes of it all. The meat and potatoes of it all we about to get into, okay?